Hi, and welcome to Rob's Camino. This is where we talk about Camino all the time because we're Camino addicts and we miss being on the Camino. This week, I'm talking to Jenny. You may have seen another video where Jenny was giving us some tips on accommodation. This week, we're going to be talking about volunteering on the Camino, and known as Hospitalera, Hospitalero, depending on your gender, and that's coming right up. So, Jenny, how long have you been volunteering on the Camino?
I've been volunteering for the last 6 years, but it's only been every second year.
Okay.
In those 6 years, and unlike a lot of other people who decide to be a hospitalero or hospitalera, I've worked purely at the one albergue, which is the CSJ albergue at Rabanal on the Camino Frances. It is. It's
lovely part of the world.
Yeah. It's known as the English albergue, and it's run by an organisation based in London called the Confraternity of St James.
Yeah.
And they acquired the use of the albergue. They don't own it, but they acquired the use of it back in the late 80s, and they set about renovating it for about the next 3 or 4 years.
Wow.
And it opened in 1993. And it's a beautiful albergue. They have about 40 places for 40 pilgrims to stay over 2 buildings. And because it's run by the English, it's kind of in my comfort zone. That's why I've really enjoyed.
Do they do afternoon teas, do they?
Oh, they do. They do afternoon teas every afternoon at 4 o'clock. Yeah.
Oh, sounds
and in the fine weather, they have a beautiful garden down the bottom of the property, which is called Huerta. And in the fine weather, it's the afternoon teas set out under the pergola.
Wow.
Down in the Huerta, and then in the wet weather, it's up in the salon.
Wow, I've never stayed in Rabanal, but I might have to try that.
Next time.
I've usually ended up staying in Fontebedon up on the top of the hill. Because it gives you a short walk up then to the Hospitalera.
Yeah, it does.
So anyway, we're talking about volunteering. Why do you volunteer? What's all that about?
Well, after my first Camino in 2012, I just felt that I'd scratched the surface of the whole Camino. And so I started doing some research on the net, and I found a group here in Sydney called Pilgrims in Sydney. And I went along to one of their meetings, and at the very first meeting, one of the coordinators, Sandra, who you'd know, said to me, we were just sort of talking about my Camino, and I said that I felt that I was just scratching the surface. And so she said, well, if you want to give back, there's a way to give back. And so she told me in general about how you can volunteer through a Spanish organisation called Hostals. This is all in Spain.
Yeah.
But if you would rather just volunteer at one particular albergue, I can recommend Refugio Guillermo at Rabanal, and she told me she'd worked there 3 times at that stage. So she told me how to apply for it, and it was a 2-page application form. But at that stage, I'd never stayed in an albergue, and so I thought, here I am, I'm signing up to work in one, and I've never stayed in one, and so. I thought in the application I had to give some background about myself, so I ended up doing an 11-page attachment.
Oh wow!
So and just with volunteering history, my career, and and the fact that my husband Steve and I owned a holiday rental, so I knew what it was like to do a lot of cleaning in particular. So I did that and sent the application form off, and then. That was in 2013, and so I got a place for the next year, 2014, and luckily I was able to work with Julie from the Pilgrim Group in Sydney.
Oh yes, yeah, great.
So we were to be joined by our boss, who was an English lady. And unfortunately, at the last minute, that lady dropped out. And so Julie and I worked at the Albergue for about 3 or 4 days by ourselves, 2 newbies. It was pretty stressful. Yeah, pretty stressful. But we worked it out, and then we were joined by Jane and another English girl. And so the rest of the 2 weeks went really well. But in a general sense, what happens in the albergues, if you're a hospitalero or hospitalera, is you do a 2-week duty and you have a handover day before that duty starts, and then a handover day at the end of it. So you hand over to the new crew. And your day generally starts at about 5:45, where you go into the kitchen and you prepare a basic breakfast for the pilgrims. And then as soon as the pilgrims all leave at 8 o'clock, the door is closed. And so you can get to do cleaning then. And at Gathelmo, we're all, basically we assigned ourselves our own cleaning stations, shall we say. And so we have a big upstairs dormitory with a bathroom. We have a barn with a bathroom, and then we have the public area and the kitchen. And so for the 3 people, the duties were divided up. One did the big bathroom, big dormitory. Next person did the barn, and then the next person did the kitchen.
So basically, you're cooking and cleaning for the pilgrims for 2 weeks.
You'd be cooking and cleaning for the pilgrims, but you're only cooking breakfast. But until lunchtime, you're cleaning. It's a big clean because it's a big property and you're really moving. And they have very strict hygiene measures there, and there's every manner of cleaning product under the sun to use, and everything's color coded. So it's fabulous for that. There's nothing's left to any doubt, and there's no risks to be had there.
Right.
And so about lunchtime, you have a quick shower and bolt down some lunch before the pilgrims arrive at about 1 o'clock. And then the rest of the day is doing check-in. It's doing the afternoon tea. It's being on hand for the pilgrims to answer any questions. And then we also give, obviously, information about the village. The albergue is located opposite a beautiful church that has vespers at 7 and a pilgrim blessing at 9:30.
Nice.
And then eventually your day comes to an end at about 10:30. And when lights are out and you share a room with another of the same sex. And we have our own wing there, and we have our own bathroom and laundry. So
So let me ask you that question again, because people might be watching. You're cooking and cleaning, and you're getting up at 5:45, and you're going till 10:30. Why? What does that give you?
It's to have another Camino experience. It's a different experience, and it's the chance to serve. And not only serve the pilgrims, it's a chance to be of service within the village as well. By being part of the village for the time that you're there, and also to help out next door with the monks. There's a monastery next door. They come in for afternoon tea most afternoons, and so we with the afternoon tea, what happens is it's normally Father Javier. He tries to get some victims to read.
Oh, I've heard about this.
Yes. The pilgrim blessing. So we steer him in the right direction. So it's to have that different experience.
I totally get it, but people watching might wonder. I totally get it, and you must get some amazing experiences in supporting the pilgrims that are coming through.
You do. You do. You've got to leave your ego at the door. When you're a hospitalero. And I always say to people who are thinking of doing it, look, it's like jumping into Forrest Gump's box of chocolates, because you never know who you're going to get to work with. I've been really blessed. I've worked, everyone I've worked with has been fantastic over those 3 times.
People too.
Oh, it is. But
I mean, just just the pilgrims passing through for 2 weeks.
Exactly.
You must meet some incredibly inspiring people.
Yeah, you do. You do. I've met some wonderful people. On the last duty back in 2018, we met a man who came in who was on one of those reclining bicycles.
Oh yeah.
He was a Dutch pilgrim, and he was cycling. He'd cycled from. I think it might have been from Pamplona. He'd cycled most of the Camino to raise funds for Parkinson's disease.
Oh, great!
And he had Parkinson's himself, but you'd never know.
Yeah.
And
Incredible.
so his story was a really inspiring story. And you talk to people who are in grief, marriage breakups, deaths of loved ones. And you meet some hilarious people. People with not a problem in the world.
Yeah.
And
oh well.
they're mostly the Italians.
I might have to get around to having a go at that myself.
It'd be a great one. You and Pat.
So maybe we could put some links down below. If you could send me some links, maybe to CSJ in the UK.
Yeah, that's right. And to Hostals.
The different volunteering organisations.
Sure.
Generally, I suppose you have to have walked a Camino prior.
Yes, you do. Yes, you have to. That's the criteria, because otherwise you can't really understand what a pilgrim might go through.
Yeah, understand.
So, yeah.
And before we finish,
sure,
what would be 3 top tips to make the volunteer's life easier? Don't do, this in the albergue.
Okay.
Because people have to understand that they're mainly, in all the different types of albergues, they're volunteers, aren't they? I mean, even private ones have volunteers coming in to help.
That's correct. Be prepared to be part of a team.
Yeah.
Leave your ego at the door and be flexible.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. Thanks, Jenny. Great tips.
Cheers.
Well done for all your volunteering work.
Thank you.
Thanks. So thanks for watching the video. Do have a look around on the channel. There's loads and loads of different videos about the Camino. And if you've got any questions, do comment down below. And thanks for watching.